Hello and welcome to another episode of Legion by the Numbers. I'm Joe Eames, and today we're going to be looking at the Phase 1 Clone Troopers again. Again, we're going to be looking at the alternative to the Z6. In this case, we are going to be looking at the DC-15 long-range rifle and going over why basically this rifle is superior to the Z6 in pretty much every way, and that you should always be taking the DC-15 rifle instead of the Z6, with a couple of exceptions. We'll talk about what those exceptions might be just a little bit, but we're really going to look at the numbers and see the damage profiles of the two different weapons and compare and contrast them in a variety of scenarios to see why the DC-15 is a better weapon pretty much overall. Now, if you watched the previous video, which there should have been a little pop-up there to point to it, on why to use the RPS-6 instead of the Z6, you'll know that I am a big fan of using the RPS-6 instead of the Z6, but it does have this issue with maneuverability. And so today we're going to be talking about the DC-15, which completely fixes that issue with maneuverability. So let's just really quickly outfit our unit. We're going to pick the DC-15, and of course we're going to go with the extra Phase 1 Clone Trooper. Now, just as an aside note, I honestly don't know why you don't always choose the Clone Specialists. They're only one more point, and once during the game, without ever having to worry about upgrade or a recover, you could recover and do this multiple times. You're going to get an aim, a dodge, or a surge. Such a fantastic ability for just one more point, plus the extra gear slot in case you do have a loadout, you want more gear, but that doesn't even matter. I just love the specialists. Honestly, I love them. But the Clone Trooper, we'll just go with that extra Clone Trooper. We won't really worry about gear upgrades or certainly not grenades. You could, of course, always do the targeting scopes to give you that precise one, give you an extra reroll. Maybe if we have time, we'll look at the effect of having the precise one, the targeting scopes. But here's going to be our layout. 88 points for these, 6 total units, one of which is that DC-15 Phase 1 Trooper. Now, again, the issue that we had with the RPS-6, you can't use it, you can't move and fire when you're using it. The DC-15 doesn't even have that weakness. You can move and you can fire on the same turn. It also starts at range 1, goes up to range 4, where the RPS-6 is only 2 to 4. The big difference is the lack of that armor penetration, right? You just don't have the impact that the RPS-6 does have. But you get 2 red dice instead of a single rainbow versus the Z6, where you get 6 white. The DC-15 gives you just 2 red, but it also gives you critical 1. So let's go over to our dice simulator. Let's actually lay these out and see how these work. So 88 points for this DC-15 Phase 1. I guess I should here mention I would be remiss to not mention this. The Z6 is 3 points cheaper. So that's the one thing that it has. It's 85 points to outfit it this way instead of 88. Such a minor difference in points. I don't think that that's in any way, shape, or form a compelling difference between the two. If it was 5 or 10, that might be something. But 3 points is just such a small difference. But let's go over here and let's outfit. We're going to start off with first the regular Z6, which was 85 points, 5 black, and 6 white. For that, they don't have any special abilities, and we know that, let's just look at our basic damage output for that Z6 is 4 points. Now let's switch over to the DC-15, 88 points. It's the same 5 black, no white, and 2 red, and critical 1. And looking at our basic damage output for that, it's 4.6, so we've already gone up 0.6. And notice the efficiency. The efficiency was 21.25 points per hit. Now it's gone down to 19 points per hit. So more efficient than the Z6 for points against, something that doesn't actually have defense dice, which doesn't exist, but starts off with in a better position. So let's head over to back to our Z6, and let's just look at a couple of scenarios. We'll do a white trooper with nothing to block, or with no surge and not in cover. Now you're doing like 3.3. If it's more like rebels, 2.6, and then red with no surge, you're doing 2. Okay. Now and this was without cover. We're going to head over back to the DC-15, and we'll run through the same thing. White with no block, where we were getting 3.3. Now we're getting 3.8. White with a block, we were getting 2.6. Now we're getting 3.08. And then red with no block, we were getting basically 2.0. And now we're at 2.3. So you can see in every case, it does about 0.3 additional points of damage. Now let's look at what the effective cover has. Let's just start with white, surge to block. We're going, let's go back to the Z6 actually. We're going to go white, surge to block, and we're just going to look at light cover, exactly 2 points of damage, and heavy cover, 1.5 points of damage. And now with the DC-15, white, surge to block, light, we were getting 2 points, and now we're at 2.4. So the gap has actually gone up. Before it was about 0.3 additional points of damage with no cover. With cover, it's gone up by 0.4. And with heavy, we were at 1.5, and now we're at 1.8. So back to about a 0.3 difference there as we get to heavy cover. So still, the DC-15 is outperforming the Z6. Let's just run these again. Go back to the Z6. We'll do this with red, nothing to block, or no surge, light cover. We're doing 1.5 or 1.1. And with the DC-15 red on light, where 1.5 goes to 1.8, again about a 0.3 difference. And 1.13 for the heavy cover is now 1.36. So again, about 0.3 additional points of damage. And that's pretty significant. Another thing to look at is your chance to actually do no damage. With the Z6 against red, heavy cover trooper units, you're looking at a 31% chance to do no damage. And with the DC-15, that's down to a 20% chance to do no damage. So a lot better damage profiles. Now, one thing that we could also consider is, well, what about armor? Which is the better weapon to go up against armor? So let's figure that out. Go to the Z6, and we're going to do white, search to block, no cover, armor, and see what that gets. So on average, that's doing 0.9, so roughly a point with a 40% chance that it'll do no damage. But with the DC-15, white, search to block, no cover, and armor, it's getting about just a tiny bit better, 0.99. So against armor, they're kind of equivalent. Yeah, all those extra dice give you more chances to roll a crit and actually be able to do something against armor. But the critical one kind of makes up for it, because even though it's only 2 dice, now there's 2 faces that are going to potentially surge to crit. Of course, only if you get 2 surges, only one of them will surge to a crit. But the kind of averages out, and it still is just a little bit better. Now let's run those same things against a red armor. So the Z6 is doing 0.7, and the DC-15 is doing 0.74. So still a little bit better. Notice the miss chance is down also, or it's not the miss, this isn't really the miss chance, this is the no damage chance, is down about 5%. So about 5% better. So again, it's a superior weapon. It's really hard to even think up a scenario where the Z6 would be better. Maybe if you're talking about fire support, that's where the Z6 can shine a little bit, because it's just more dice if you're fire supporting into like a weapon that has surge to crit, or a high amount of critical or impact. Maybe the Z6 might shine in some situations like that. You have to really run a lot of scenarios to really find one, but so far we aren't finding a single scenario where the Z6 is outperforming the DC-15. So here's your takeaways from this episode. DC-15, unless you really needed those 3 points, DC-15 is a better weapon than the Z6. You should be taking that. It's just as maneuverable as the Z6. It has that extra range, so you can actually do some damage at range 4. Yeah, not a lot of dice, but it still has some ability to do damage. In fact, let's just look at that really quick. Here we are. We got the Z6. Let's take out all of our black dice. Let's look at a white surge to block defender in light cover, something that you might face at range 4. So 0.3 points of damage, 70% miss chance. Not a lot of chance there to do damage against something in light cover. If it has no cover, on the other hand, white surge to block, critical 1, 2 red, still about the same. Oh, we're looking at armor. Let's try that again. Let's fix this and do this without armor. So white surge to block, light cover without armor. There we go. Much better. Got that wrong. 0.6, so a little bit better than, it's almost 50-50, slightly better than 50-50. You'll do some damage. In no cover, you're pretty much guaranteed to do a point of damage and maybe do 2. So, but almost for sure 1. So at range 4, that Z6 is really quite nice, even against heavy cover. Let's look at that. We're doing 0.3, 70% chance to miss. So yeah, pretty tough there to get some damage shooting at range 4 against something in heavy cover. Maybe not a great idea. Maybe against some B1s with no surge, a little bit better, but still not even a 50-50 chance. But against something in light or no cover at range 4, that Z6, that's DC-15 is probably going to do a point of damage. So there you go. That's the video for today. Hope you really liked this. If I missed anything, leave a comment. Give me some likes. Of course, subscribe if you like this comment. I'm going to be putting out a lot more of these videos in the weeks and months to come. And otherwise, thanks for tuning in. Hope to see you in another video.